So I've just recorded the episode and gone out for my morning walk, as it's early morning for me because living here in Bali, a lot of the people that I do interview for the show are on the other side of the world, but it always works out so well. Because this is with Pete Cohen, this interview, and we dive into what I think is some of the most important things when it comes to you being able to achieve what you want. Because let's be brutally honest, if you're feeling a little bit confused on what it is that you need to be doing, or you're feeling confused with what might be holding you back, why haven't you achieved what it is that you want, whether it's the body, the health, the business, the relationships, all the different things that you want and what you classify as success, the ultimate thing is you doing and being the person that you need to be to get there. And that really starts with, firstly, taking responsibility that the results that you get are completely up to you. But then it's actually, in what I've found, especially on a personal note, it's actually getting out of our own way. It's getting out of my own way and being able to do and be the person that I need to be, that gets me to the goals, that gets me to the results, that gets me being the person that I want to be as well. So we dive into and we talk about one of my favorite and what is Pete's favorite books as well. It's a book that I've read twice now, and I'm definitely going to be jumping in for a third time after doing this interview. And I really want to be able to get you to take action. There is so much that Pete gives you in this interview that you're going to be able to apply from today. So I want you to choose at least one, put it into application, see the results for yourself. Come back to this episode, watch it again, and be able to soak in more and then move on from it as well. There is so much that you're going to be able to take away from this episode. I'm really excited for you to be able to get into it. So watch this episode all the way through. Any questions, comment below, and I'll be happy to personally come in, answer them, and we can also get Pete back on. Hopefully I'll try. So watch this episode all the way through. Any questions you have, comment below, and I'll personally come in and answer them for you. I'd love to get Pete back onto the show as well to dive deep into other things. And so if you want, or if you want us to be able to go into topics, or if you have questions for Pete, then please include that and we'll dive into it. Peter, thank you so much for taking your time out. It was me that was a little bit late for this one because I was just caught in the most crazy ass traffic that obviously got me to be very zen-like and just accept and observe. But thank you so much for you taking the time out, for being here, for myself and the listener, Pete.
Oh, it's absolute. It's my pleasure, Chris, and massive shout out to you and the work that you're doing in kind of revolutionizing the health and fitness industry, because it's something that really does need revolutionizing. We have some incredible people that work in this industry, and they just need help. Everyone needs help. Everyone needs guidance. Everyone needs mentorship. And I really appreciate, what you're doing. I looked today at some of the people you've interviewed, and sharing that information with people all over the world to help inspire them, create a better life for themselves and for their families. So yeah, big hat off to you as well.
Thank you, my man. I really appreciate that. And I feel just totally blessed that we get to sit here, and it's a selfish venture that I see as well, me being able to have this conversation with you. Like, I'm pumped to be able to get it, especially knowing what we're about to jump into. But it's really cool that I get to hit a record button and then obviously share this around the world. So before we jump into these few topics that we've got for today, Pete, why is Pete so phenomenal?
That's a good question, really. I think it took me many years to work that out. For so long, I was so insecure. You did make a lovely comment before. You said, "You big, handsome man." And I said, you know what? That's not something which many people call me. I was really insecure as a child. You might tell if I give you a side profile, I've got a very large nose. I've got a bald head. For many years growing up, I thought there was something wrong with me, and I wanted to please the world. I wanted validation from the world. And that led me on a path of achieving a lot of things, from being on television for 10 years, for writing numerous best-selling books, to working with world and Olympic champions and sports teams. And it was all great, but there was always something missing, and what was missing was my own internal validation of learning to like and love and appreciate the gifts that I have. So what makes me phenomenal is, I suppose, the journey that I've been on, what I've learned, but also, just like you, I am a junkie for personal development and information. So, I've studied with some of the best people in the world, some people that people have never heard of, but other people like Dr. Rakowski, someone who I've spent the last 6 years working with, probably one of the best nutritionists in the world, someone who Paul Chek and Charles Poliquin massively endorse. Actually, I was just with him, believe it or not, in in Dubai, and we shared a room, and it was fascinating because I thought I was disciplined. Oh my God, this guy takes discipline to a whole new level. And I think we are the sum of the people that we spend most time with. So I've spent a lot of time with a lot of people, and I've immersed myself in some incredible stuff. And then, I love to share that with people. So I'm excited because we get to talk, and there's going to be a few people that listen to this and they'll take something away and it will make a difference to their life. It's called the ripple effect. So I know what I'm on earth to do. I want to have impact. I want to make a difference. And that fires me up every single day. So I suppose that's it in a nutshell. What about you? Let's turn I want to, because I'm the one who normally interviews people. So, what about you? I'm really curious for my own selfish reasons as to what makes you, the living legend that you are.
Very good. And you know what? It's just when you said that, it comes back to I had lunch. Do you know who Taki Moore is?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
So Taki was here with his family in Bali, but up in a board, so about 45 minutes away from where I'm. So we went up there and had lunch with him, and we got chatting.
Wow.
And he said, Chris, he goes, look, if money wasn't a problem, you can do whatever you want, you know what I mean? You're going to be there. What would you want to do? And honestly, I'd never thought of that question. And as soon as he asked, I just diarrheaed out of my mouth. I want to learn and share. That's all I want to do. When I'm in the zone, when I'm just, time can fly by and I love every single second. It's when I'm really deep into learning something and then I know that I can share that. And it's funny because I see that's why I became a personal trainer. I was a really overweight kid and that held me back, and I had to learn to transform myself, and then I became a personal trainer to then help other people transform their bodies. And then I saw that happen. Then as I progressed and built my business and had my journey so far, then I now help other people build their businesses, and then it continues to grow from here. So I'm just really enjoying the journey along with it, and how I want to be able to learn and then be able to share this on to other people. Because the question that I had for you, especially with what you were just saying, was what...
There we go. It's real time.
It's real time.
I've just committed the cardinal sin. So in a podcast. But anyway, there you go. At least you know it's real. So
exactly. So the question for you, Pete, is what flicked the switch for you want to go and surround yourself with the right people and to want to start the journey that you're on now?
That's a great question. So many things that my parents are both alive and well today, and very fortunate that they taught me many things. They taught me many crazy things, like, there are starving children in the world, so eat what's on your plate. And it's like, well, okay, well, how does that help them? I mean, how the hell does that help starving people? But, they were just doing the best that they possibly, that's what people do. People do the best that they can do, but they just don't know there's always another level. And what you said before just made me write down, we always have to raise our standards. We don't have to, but if we do, then we get to grow and develop. My parents told me two things which massively shaped my life. One is, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And my dad has said that to me from such a young age, to the point where I can't help myself. I'll meet anyone and I naturally become curious. But I often talk too much, but I want to learn. So I'm curious, who are you? What makes you tick? So I've always had that. That's a real key thing. And then the second thing, my mum has always told me this: there is an answer to everything. She also told me, you've got an answer to everything. But I believe there's an answer to everything. So I'm very fortunate. If someone comes to work with me professionally, I believe that there is an answer to the challenge, the habit, the fear, the phobia, the world title they want to win. I believe there's an answer to that. That was tested a number of years ago when my wife was basically given 18 months to live. And I must admit, then all of a sudden, it's like the whole world kind of turns on its head. But then the two most important lessons I know were brought to life. It's not what you know, it's who you know. So what did I do? I phoned my coach in Dallas. He's originally from the Philippines. I worked with him for 16 years, traveled the world with him. This is a guy who worked with world hunger. So they lived with indigenous people all over the world, and they weren't allowed to say anything. All they were allowed to do was observe, to see what these people did, what they believed, what they ate, their rituals. And he just said something amazing. He said, find people that are still alive and find out what did they do. Now, I wouldn't have thought of that because I was in a panic. Yeah. And that was great advice. And then he said, what is she going to do when she gets better? I said, Rafa, she's been given 18 months to live. And he went, so what? Do people defy the odds? And I went, yeah. He goes, you defied the odds. Once upon a time, there was a swimming race. There were millions of sperm and you made it. You defied the odds. And most of us have defied that. You've defied the odds in doing what you do and separated yourself from loads of other trainers. You defied the odds. You decided to do something different. And by the way, my wife now is 6 years cancer free. We found a treatment in Houston, Texas. Cost us $300,000 for the treatment. But, you know, I made a lot of money in 2003 by chance. I sold a weight loss program to a medical insurance company for 2.4 million, which was a joke because I never ever thought I'd be worth any money at all in my life. By the way, making money, I think, is easy. Keeping it was a complete, because I had no idea what to do with this money. So I made some very poor choices. But I can't remember the question that you asked me, but I do believe there's an answer to everything. And I do believe it's not what you know, it's who you know. Yep. My life is richer right now because I'm spending this time with you. And I know that after this, if I needed your help with someone in Bali or someone in Australia, and you needed my help, it's like, okay, let's connect. Let's help. That is what makes the world a better place. Yep. Connecting. Yep. So.
No, I absolutely love that, because the question was, and you nailed it, was what was the straw that broke the camel's back and got you onto this journey? And it's very interesting because you said what you learned from your parents, and this is something I've been pondering on for a little while, was what is the intrinsic motivation inside me that gets me kicking my legs out of the bed each morning? And obviously, like, my wife and my two daughters now are a huge driving force, but I know it's been before that. And I think it was like my parents had me when they were 17 years old. So I've got some younger, really cool parents, and they're absolutely phenomenal. I love them. And I saw the sacrifices they made for obviously me to have what I have. And obviously we grew up with not a lot of money. So for me, doing some deep work and really trying to go, okay, what is this? Is obviously being able to provide and give my family what it is that they want. And it's been a really interesting journey. It's still something that I'm uncovering and going through there, because I remember my dad said, if you want to achieve anything you want to have success, you've got to do it yourself. And the other thing was, whatever you do, just do your best at it. Because he said, if you want to be a clown, just be the best clown. You'll still make a success out of it. And so I've really tried to apply those two things. And I think they've just always stemmed through. So I totally love it. Totally.
Well, that's so powerful hearing you say that, because the psychologist in me is listening to that going, okay, well, that makes perfect sense. And that's why you are who you are, because with everything you do, you do it the best that you can. You want to provide, you want to help. But these are things that we were told, right? So I'm just in my head thinking, okay, well, what can we tell ourselves? You know, yes. Many people know the power of auto-suggestion, yes. Whether it be through hypnosis or whatever it is. We're all talking to ourselves all the time. It's like, well, what are you saying to yourself? And what could you say to yourself that would then manifest greatness into your life? You know, it's a fascinating conversation to find out, you know, what have you been told? Because many people have been told I tell you, the three things that most people are told which mess them up massively is don't talk to strangers. Yeah. Money doesn't grow on trees. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And don't copy. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're three of the most craziest things. Yeah. We should talk to everyone. We know why we hear that. Money, okay, it doesn't necessarily grow on trees, but there's money everywhere. The world is full of money. Yeah. But we just have this belief that maybe money doesn't grow on trees. Money's the root of all evils. Yeah. And then we think, don't copy. You're at school and you're told, you know, don't copy. I remember at school just looking over because I didn't know the answer. Yeah. No. And it's like, you've got to try and work it out yourself. No, you haven't. You haven't got to try and work it out yourself. Find someone who's already achieved what you want to achieve and copy them, and then add your own twist to it. I'm not talking about plagiarizing, but
no, totally. You know, like you've got to mimic success. See what the successful steps are that they took, and obviously this is going to start waving the page. And I love that you said you've got to eat everything on your plate, because that was something that was said to me, and that was one of the demons that I fought and win over with not like being able to happily sit and eat. Because it's really interesting. I obviously been watching. Say with my eldest daughter, she's 3.5 now. She has an amazing ability to just eat and be like, no, it's enough. I'll have that later. And with whatever food it is, even if it's a treat, a sweet or whatever, she'll be like, no, and put it away. Yeah. And I like, I love that. I love that you can put food and that she can naturally go, I'm going to have this, I'm going to have this. I don't want to eat that, and I've had enough, and then walk away totally happy. You don't have to eat everything right there because it changes. So, okay, this is good. Sorry, I can go off a tangent, but I want to swing it back around to what you said with that auto-suggestion and also bring it into the Think and Grow Rich, because that was... This is one journal that I write in every single morning that is a part of which what I start with, how he talks about, and I've got another one that's next to my bed upstairs. How do you Think and Grow Rich affect you?
Well, I was going to find my journal here. This is one of my journals.
Nice.
It's called Dream Big, and every day I write in my journaling. I heard actually Charles Poliquin talking recently about the power of journaling, and I think most people think it's some sort of, I don't know, something that little girls do, they keep a journal and they don't want anyone to know what, but there's so much stuff that goes on in our head, and to make sense of the world, it's great, to write down, and we can talk about that. But you asked me how I came across Think and Grow Rich. I mean, I have a few copies of this book. I'm very lucky. I've got a hardback copy of this, and I just keep, as this book is so underlined. How I came across this book is, and whenever I meet anyone and they said they've read it, this the first thing I ask is, how did you find that book? Who gave it to you? It was like Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. That was one of the first books I read, because I've met people from all different walks of life that have read that book. This book, I'd heard of it, I'd seen it, but I never wanted to read it because I had a really horrible relationship with the whole idea of money. Right. And I thought that money is bad and rich people are bad. But I found it through really ridiculous circumstances. As you probably know, I got involved in the network marketing industry a few years ago, and that was the last industry on earth I ever would have touched. I was so anti it. It was... But I must admit, I've spoken at a few network marketing conferences, and because they would pay me a few £1,000s to get on stage and make everyone go, yeah, whoa. But I came across it from the industry that I was ended up working with, because that company is the only company in history that has a strategic partnership with Think and Grow Rich. But I digress. When I read the book, I struggled with it. I really struggled with it to start off with. I felt like it was just a hard read, but it was because I don't think I was ready for it. Yeah. And then someone said to me one day, someone who I really admire, they said, you need to read that book, but at the front of the book, write down something that you want, and then read it and underline the parts of the book that relate to what you want. And then I really felt like Napoleon Hill, who spent 20 years working on this book and didn't get paid a penny, I really felt like the book was talking to me. And then someone else said to me, you don't read it once. It's not a book you just read. So I've read the book. No. You don't read this book. You read other books. Yeah. This is a book you have to apply. You have to bring it to life. He talks about The Secret, and by the way, the Australian lady who wrote the book, The Secret, so many people give credit to this book. It's produced millions of millionaires. This is the success manual. And what I would say to everyone, if there's going to be a legacy from you and I working together today, the people listen to this that follow you, who haven't followed your advice in checking this book out, get the book. I dare you. I dare you. I will pay everyone $10 who, from listening to this, gets the book, writes down in the front of the book, underlines every bit that relates to what they want. I pledge to give everyone $10. They can contact you and I'll send them $10, right? Because I know, I mean, I could be setting myself up for bankruptcy, but it's 2017. And as we said before we came on air, there are 17 principles in this book. And I know that if you apply these principles as best as you can, I guarantee you, and I'm sure you'd agree, there is no other better book on the planet to help manifest your goals, your dreams, your purpose than Think and Grow Rich, written in 1937. And I'm sure we'll get into it, but there's one thing that sticks out more than anything for me in this book. And it's not about thinking. That is probably the second thing. But the number one thing, there's Napoleon Hill wrote about this, and he said, the era of the go-getter has gone. And that was in the 1930s. Yeah. It's the era of the go-giver. What can I give you how can I serve you? How can I help you? And I believe it's taken a long time for people to kind of get their head around it. But people like you, people like me, and many others are starting to realize, could I make a career by serving other people and providing massive value? And I'm living testament to that. I know you are, and I know many other people around the world who are exactly the same. And it's just the best book ever written. I could talk about this all day, all night for the next 10 years.
I tell you what would be really interesting, because I'm just thinking obviously of my own experience with going through it. And I've like recently, and I'm talking about in the last 6 months, I've read it twice. And once I finished the one I'm reading right now, which is Persuasion, which is just up here, I want to go back into it. As you've read it and gone through it, what have you taken away, or what have been the changes, and how have you applied things differently?
Well, again, great question. My coach, who was originally from the Philippines, the guy who I called in Dallas, he told me many years ago, he goes, Pete, you need a mastermind group. You need a support group. And I struggled with that, and I didn't understand it. And for so many years, I worked on my own in isolation. And I was successful, but I remember reading in the book, the second principle, the second of all these 17 principles, is the number 2, which is the mastermind alliance. You are the sum of the 5 people that you are working with. So and I know that lots of trainers, they're working with a lot of people, health professionals there, and they end up getting tired. I met a couple of doctors in Dubai last week, and they were both saying the same thing. They burn out. They feel the system is, they want to do functional medicine, even though they're classic general practitioners.
By
and
any
they
chance
feel
were they a couple?
Yes.
Okay, I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, one's Asian.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
It's such a small world, right?
Yeah.
They might be listening to this.
Yeah.
I probably will. See, that's the other thing is, and we have to. People talk about 6 degrees of separation. There's no such thing. It's like there's no separation. We're all connected, but people. It's like probably 3 or 4 now. You can go anywhere in the world, meet someone, and they know someone who you know. But it was the Mastermind Alliance. Yeah. We got to come together. And this is what Napoleon Hill did. They called them secret societies. And people think, what were they doing? Look, they were people that realized, if we come together and if I support you, I could achieve more myself in 1 year working with you than I could do in 10 years on my own. And that's where people talk about coaching. When people spend money to get coaching, they're making an investment. And the coach is really there just to help them. Even the word coach, it comes from coach and horses. It's like, this is where you are. This is where you want to go. Let's go together. Yeah. So the Mastermind Alliance had a massive impact on me. And then probably the biggest is the definiteness of purpose, which is, the first principle, which is, how many people do you think have thought about that question? Ancient philosophers, thinking, well, what are we here for? What's the meaning of life? What's our purpose? And I think we've been talking about that on I think every day on Facebook I broadcast live at 7:00 Monday to Friday, and this week has all been about that one subject. What is our purpose? What are we here to do? And I think that Napoleon Hill said, and this was a frightening statistic for me, he said 2% of people in the world probably, and this is in the 1930s, have a very clear image of, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm here to do, and you can't stop me. Yep. Because people don't have that burning desire when things go wrong in life, which inevitably do happen, people just give up. And I think
I know exactly with my own life, whenever I've had that definite of purpose and that clarity, and this is definitely what that book always hammers home for me, is I can get there easily, like almost feeling effortlessly when I look back at it. But it's when I don't have that clarity that you're just like a fart in the wind. It's just like pissing in the wind. It's messy and it doesn't work. That's just not what's going on. And that's why I think what's so fantastic is like when a client comes on board, that's the first thing I'm working on. Clarity. How do we get clarity on where you're going right now? Because then that's a massive part of the problem, and it's not pushing anything uphill. It's just all going downhill from there.
Yeah, and when you look at people when they sculpt their bodies, a lot of trainers, they have an idea. I've got an idea what I want to do, so I can see it, and I'm going to work towards it and make it happen. we've been blessed with the equipment to do great things to our body, but we've also been given this amazing equipment. And I'll tell you one of the things I came across recently is a woman called Gabrielle Oettingen, who's done a lot of stuff on imagery and goal setting. And they did these studies where they put people into fMRI machines that looks at brain activity, and they would ask them questions like, think of yourself, and then they would observe to see what part of the brain lit up. Then they'd say, think of a stranger, and then they'd see a different part of the brain light up. But what was fascinating, they then said, think of yourself in the future. And for some people, the same part of the brain lit up, the stranger part. And what this was showing is a lot of people don't have any concept of themselves in the future. Yeah. And can you imagine? And then people say, well, all I know is now. All I know is what I have. I don't have any money. How could I? But hang on. When you work with people who have been successful, whether it's been Edison who invented the light bulb, or Alexander Graham Bell, I mean, what do you think they did? Do you think they used the equipment? They dared to dream, to use their imagination. You've got the equipment. I've got the equipment. But people often need help in using it wisely, as opposed to using it in a way where all you're manifesting is what you're thinking about, because you're picturing it. What's wrong? What's missing? What you haven't got? Why is my life so crap? Well, that's because that's what you're thinking about. And what goes about, it comes about.
And also, I think what's so interesting with, where are you? Was like, say with psycho-cybernetics, for example, is how it's actually your brain is, when you are focusing on something, you will start moving towards that. That's why, like, people can kind of like take this and like, oh, it's a bit woo-woo, you're just going to think about it and it's just going to appear into your life. Well, okay, surface level, yes. But the thing is, there's actually science behind what's going on as well. And also what I love is, do you know Peter Sage by any chance?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
okay,
someone else.
So I'm listening to heaps of his stuff recently, and hopefully we'll be getting on the show really soon. But I've been really listening into like his different levels of consciousness, and how there's to me, where like, oh, things happen to me, it's the kind of victim mentality, and there's things by me, and this was so me. This was, oh, I have to do everything. I have to just force everything to happen. I have to grind to get everything. And then there's through me, such as, well, things are just going to happen through me, and it doesn't have to be so forceful. So I love where you're taking this.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. I think some people just don't want to hear this. They just think it's, I don't know what they think it is. Maybe it's because you can't necessarily see it right in front of you when we talk about the consciousness, the unconscious part of the brain. And that's why I admire Napoleon Hill so much, because I think he must have got a hard time when he wrote this book, because when you talk about the 17th principle, cosmic habit force. I mean, can you imagine people in the 1930s in America going, cosmic habit force? What the blazing is that? But he interviewed some of the most successful people, 500 of the most successful people, to find out how did they think, what was the secret, of their success. And then you look at people like Tony Robbins and what's his name, Wayne Dyer, who passed away. Yep. These are all people that they've invested so much into learning. And I'd love to give everyone here, a tip. There's something else that I learned, because sometimes the hardest thing is just to get started, is to pick up the book and actually start reading. And this is something that's so powerful. Inspiration is for amateurs. I heard this some time ago. I thought, what does that mean? And what the person was talking about is that, look, don't sit there waiting to be inspired. Go and get inspired. How do you do that? Just get started. Just pick up the book. I read one page of this book every day. I just open it, and whatever's on that page, I read it. I make some notes. It's what's called a ritual. So rituals are something else that incredibly important, but it's the whole concept of just get started. And we all, as human beings, we need to feed the subconscious part of our brain. It's almost like it needs to be fed, and the whole of our brain needs to be fed. But what are we feeding it? If we're feeding it the news, if you're feeding it bad news, then your whole neurology is going to remember that. We've really got to work hard on being a better version of ourselves, because if we don't, then we just become like everyone else. We develop that victim mentality, and we should all be heroes, right? David Bowie says we should be heroes just for one day. I said, well, why one day? Yeah. Why can't we be a hero every day just by doing the best that we can?
Oh, so good. So when it comes to back to rituals, which you said, which I thought was really important, because I feel like a lot of people are in goals focused rather than behavioral and they're behavior focused or they're goal focused. And a lot of people are just focusing on the goals. I want to earn $1 million, and they're just saying that over and over. But they're not focusing on what do I have to do on a day-by-day basis that it will then eventually get me there. Such as in the health and weight loss space. Do you want to focus on being 8% body fat, or do you want to focus on just following through and eating your meals that are going to provide you the nutrition each and every day? How do you help people develop their rituals?
So first off, if you don't have rituals, then you tend to wake up every day and you go into reacting mode. And that's very easy to do. So we have to create our days. That's how I look at it. And again, when you study success, you see that that's what people do. So I don't know what your rituals are. For me, 4:57, that's what time I get up. Don't ask me why. That's just the time. I put my alarm on the other side of the room. And my wife's next to me, so it's going to go off. So I need to get up quickly because I don't want to wake her up. Yeah. But if I don't do that, it's very easy to talk myself into staying where I am and going, isn't this great? It's just so warm. I don't want to get out of bed. I've got to go and create my day. And what's the gentleman called who wrote the book, The Miracle Morning? You've got to go and create the day. Yeah. So the rituals: 4:57, downstairs, drink a glass of water, write in my journal, and then start planning what's happening in the day. So I go to work, read one page of Think and Grow Rich. So the first 90 minutes, first 2 hours, I am creating my day. I know that's not possible for everyone because of circumstances, but rituals for me are all about, it's like a religion. That's where the word ritual comes from. Yeah. My grandma said, never talk about sex, money, religion, or something else, politics. Yeah. And sometimes that's probably a good idea, but to develop your own religion, yes. Yes. I'm now going to talk about religion because my coach said to me once upon a time, he said, you're a lot like Jesus. I went, what, excuse me? And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, because I'm Jewish, because obviously Jesus was born a Jew. He said, no. Because Jesus was a rebel. And I went, yeah, because I actually went to a Catholic. I'm a Jew who went to a Catholic school, extremely confused. But Jesus was a bit of a rebel. He was kind of rebelling against the 600 odd laws that are in the Jewish religion. And, this is just too much. So he went away to the desert and for 40 days and 40 nights, he discovered himself. And he came back and he was experiencing the enlightening of himself. Now, how much of that is true, I don't know. But I love the story. I love the story of, hang on, this is my life. Whose rules am I living by? But they were probably someone else's. Why can't I create the life I want? Why can't I be whoever I want to be? You can, but if you want to do that, you're going to have to work at it, because you're undoing a lot of stuff. And I believe that if you want something big enough or something great enough, you're going to have to pay a price. That's what Napoleon Hill talks about. He says, what do you want? And what price are you prepared to pay in order to get it? What are the sacrifices that, you are going to have to make? I just think that it's a much better life where you choose to develop yourself. It's a much better life where you choose to work with like-minded people. My day from spending this time with you is going to be so much more energized because there's a sharing going on here. Yeah. And that's what we, as personal trainers, health professionals, we should really look to. This is something I learned from Dr. Rakowski around, with everyone you meet, ask yourself the question, how can I help this person? Sounds like there's someone near you that maybe needs a bit of help. It's a little young little pup.
11 month. It's all good. Mum and grandma are there.
No worries.
Sonny's normally very good.
Yeah. So I mean, it is worth it. It is worth working on yourself, because if you look at anyone who's achieved anything and you think, okay, what's the difference? For me, there's a gap. There's a gap between where you are and where you want to be. There's always a gap. That's what gets me up. I want to fill that gap. But if I don't work on this gap, that's where fear, worry, doubt, anxiety, depression, jealousy, greed, they all live there. Yeah. And we can all pick up on those emotions. Yeah. But if you know where you're going, you're the one who's in control. especially if it's important enough to you. And you look at what Maslow said, the hierarchy of needs.
Yep.
The top is the self-actualization. And then, you know, what man can be, he must be. And what does that mean? I believe what we must do is we must do things which fulfill us and fulfill the world that we're in. I think deep down, man has a great need to help his fellow man,
Yep.
you know?
Okay, a couple of things, and I'll touch on that one straight away, is because when you look at what makes people happy, however you really define that, but like with the studies that now show, if you do a good act for someone, it will make you feel good. So you doing something good will make you feel good. And then if you even watch someone do something doing good for someone else, that makes you feel good as well. So even from a selfish point of view, if your goal is, and this is where I think Zig Ziglar has just said it so well, is you must help other people achieve what they want for you to achieve what you want. So at the end of the day, all you need to focus on is giving value to other people.
Yeah, it gives you a feeling of satisfaction that's much more than just a happy feeling, you know? I was, believe it or not, I've been working with Manny Pacquiao for a while, and the guy is phenomenal. He is one of the nicest people you can ever meet. And he's obviously now a senator in the Philippines. Wow. But he wants to help. He's got this massive entourage of people who, when he stops boxing, a lot of those people aren't going to have any work. Yeah. So he is doing whatever he can to help them. In fact, Dr. Rakowski told me that when Evander Holyfield turned up at his office in Houston, Texas, he had like 30 people in his entourage. And of course, when he stopped boxing, a lot of these people didn't have anything to do. Yeah. But a lot of people who have got so much, they realize when you've got so much, what's the best thing you can do with it? Well, you can share it. So Think and Grow Rich, written by Napoleon Hill, created by, or the idea was Andrew Carnegie, originally from Scotland, who became the richest man in the world because he had an idea. And his idea was a very simple idea. He learned Morse code, very young boy, and listening to the messages that were coming, this was in the early 1900s, that the roads and railways, the iron was breaking and bending. So Andrew Carnegie is listening to this going, hang on, what's stronger than iron? Great question. And what is strong? Steel. So him getting into the steel industry made him the richest man in the world, and JP Morgan bought the business. But what did he do for the second part of his life? He gave it away. He built 2,500 libraries all over the world. So, you know, we all need to get good at helping, doing random acts of kindness. And what I would say of the 17 principles, you know, we've spoken a little bit about your purpose, the Mastermind Alliance, but I love the whole idea of going the extra mile and offering massive value. You know, you offer massive value. No one's paying for this information. Yeah. You're just giving it away freely. Yeah. You're not asking for anything in return. I do that every day for the last, I don't know, year and a half more. I've been broadcasting every day on Facebook and Periscope. I'm not asking people to do anything. If they want to buy something from me, they can. There are ways they can work with me, but I'm offering massive value, and I'm in this for the long haul. You know, I'm not tomorrow just going to stop. Nothing's going to stop me because my purpose is massive. I want the biggest movement of personal development in the world, or at least one of them. Yeah. I want to impact as many lives as I can. Now, that's big, and not everyone necessarily has to have as. Someone said to me recently, the purpose of their life is to be outside. And I just thought about it, and I thought, that's a bit of a weird. But then I asked her, she said, well, when I go outside, I feel great. When I come inside, I make everyone feel good because I've been outside, you know, and it's. I remember being in Houston, Texas, and this guy was I was in Alabama, and this guy was on a driving range. He was picking up the golf balls. That was his job. Yeah. He had to pick them up. And I said, so what do you do here? And he goes, I pick up the golf balls. And I said, well, is that it? He goes, yeah, that's what I do. He said, I love it. And I'm going, you love it? I said, what do you love about it? He goes, I love the joy of picking the balls up so people can hit them. I love watching people hit them and watching their reactions of how they feel and what they're doing. I feel like I'm bringing joy into their life. And I was going, wow, that's really quite simplistic in the way I look at things, but it's the same thing, right? Yeah. It's offering value. It's doing something for somebody else. So we all need help with this because we all buy massively into what I call society candy, and society candy isn't particularly healthy about, money, fame, fortune, the six pack. Not that there's anything wrong with any of that. We all love a six pack, right? Yeah. But it's really, there's more to life than society can do.
So much more. Yeah. And I love where you want to bring this as well, because fulfillment is just what I want to help people discover, and what I want to be able to truly discover to then share out as well. And there's so many elements of that, and there's so many great points. Like, we've already over time, and we're just scratching the surface of what's going on, Pete. This has just been absolutely phenomenal. So I tell you what,
my pleasure. My pleasure.
One last thing, crack at the whip. What do you ask of the listener right now to go away and to do? Because I want this to be practical, that can get them on the right path. And for me.
Well, of course. Well, one thing they can do is they can watch some of the stuff that I do on Facebook every day at 7 a.m. in the UK. I think what would be really impactful is to, if you've not read Think and Grow Rich, buy a copy. Don't even though we want to save the environment, please buy a copy of it. It's a book that needs to be read. It needs a pencil. Open the book, write at the front of the book something I've written here: how to make my 365 $1 billion business, 16th to the 12th, 2016. Yeah. So I don't want to make $1 million. I want $1 billion business. Yeah. So I'm reading the book, write down something you want, and then read the book and underline the bits in the book that relate to what you want. Do it. If you do it, I'll give you $10. But you've got to show it to me. Yeah. So they've got to contact you with a picture, and then I'll send you the $10 and you can send it to them.
Done.
How's that? You've even got an incentive.
You're on. I absolutely love it. Okay, so just to make sure that they can go straight on and consume everything that you've got, where is the best place for the listener to go right now, Pete?
Well, I would go to my365, mi365.me. And they'll get some emails, and we'll just share with people what we're doing, because there's nothing new in what I'm doing. But if I can help inspire people with the work that they're doing, that would be absolutely phenomenal. But I also want to thank you for the opportunity of speaking to the people that follow you. And let's go to work and make this world a better place.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, mate. I really appreciate this, mate. And I'm really pumped up to continue keeping in contact with you. So huge muchas gracias.
My pleasure.
Now it's time for you to get the most out of this and comment below. This is where I will personally come in and give you the answers that you need. And as always, the best discussions happen over at mybodyblend.com. This is where I can give you all the guides, programs, and insights that I can't fit in these episodes. Plus the free diets and workouts are there waiting for you now. And if you did like this episode, then be sure to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode and I can send them straight to you. I'm looking forward to seeing you soon here and in the My Body Blends only community.